Tactic number 2 violated every rule in the Army handbook, and it saved 2,000 lives in the first hour. Number 4 was so reckless, 3 generals tried to stop it the night before. And number 1? When Eisenhower found out it was happening, he almost called off the entire invasion. These 5 tactics won D-Day, but they almost never happened. Here's why. Tactic 5. Loading tanks before infantry on landing craft. Loading tanks first, infantry second, completely backwards from doctrine. Standard operating procedure said infantry hits the beach first, secures it, then armor rolls in. That's how it was done in North Africa, Sicily, Italy. But a lieutenant colonel named Paul Thompson looked at the Omaha beach defenses and said, "If infantry goes first, they'll be slaughtered before they get 50 yards. His plan: put Sherman tanks on landing craft ahead of the infantry. Tanks hit the beach first, suppress the bunkers, then infantry follows in the next wave. When Eisenhower's staff heard about this, they nearly lost their minds. General Omar Bradley called it tactical insanity. Tanks were supposed to support infantry, not lead. Thompson argued his case for 3 weeks. He finally got approval, but only for one regiment, the 16th Infantry at Omaha Beach. Here's what happened. The 16th Infantry sector had 40% fewer casualties in the first hour than sectors where infantry landed first. Tanks rolled off landing craft, fired point blank at bunkers, and created just enough chaos for infantry to get off the beach. Meanwhile, 2 miles west, where they did it the correct way, infantry first, tanks later, men were pinned down for hours. Some units lost 90% of their officers in the first 20 minutes. After D-Day, every amphibious landing for the rest of the war used Thompson's method. But on June 6th, only 1 regiment had it. But that's nothing compared to tactic number 4, which 3 generals tried to cancel the night before the invasion. Tactic 4. Glider landings in total darkness. Landing gliders at night with no lights, no radio, and no idea where you'd crash. The British 6th Airborne Division had a critical mission: capture 2 bridges, Pegasus Bridge and Horsa Bridge, before dawn. If the Germans blew those bridges, Allied tanks couldn't push inland. The plan: land gliders carrying infantry right next to the bridges, at night, in total darkness. This was insane for multiple reasons. Gliders were flimsy, wood and canvas, no engines. You got towed by a transport plane, then cut loose. 1 landing, no do-overs. Doctrine said you land gliders in daylight, in open fields, with ground support. Major John Howard proposed landing 6 gliders within 50 yards of Pegasus Bridge, at midnight, with no lights. 3 generals said absolutely not. The math said 80% of those gliders would crash. Men would die before the battle even started. Howard went directly to General Richard Gale, commander of the 6th Airborne. He said, "If we wait for daylight, the Germans will blow the bridge. We land at night, or we fail the mission." Gale overruled the other generals. The mission was on. Here's what happened. June 5th, 11 p.m. 6 gliders cut loose over Normandy. Pilots flying blind. No GPS. Just a map, a compass, and moonlight. The first glider landed 47 yards from Pegasus Bridge. The second landed 90 yards away. 5 of the 6 gliders landed within 300 yards of the target. Howard's men captured both bridges in 15 minutes. 0 Allied casualties in the assault. The Germans never blew the bridges. If they'd waited for daylight like the generals wanted, the bridges would have been rubble. After the war, this became the template for every Special Operations airborne assault. But on June 5th, 1944, 3 generals were trying to cancel it. Now, stay with me, because tactic number 3 was technically a war crime, but it worked. First, let me tell you about the tactic that saved thousands, but wasn't supposed to happen at all. Tactic 3. Marauder bombing. Bombing your own landing zones. Bombing the beaches where your own men were about to land, minutes before they arrived. The Air Force had a plan. Bomb German defenses at dawn, hours before the landings. Give the smoke and dust time to clear. Then send in the troops. But a brigadier general named Samuel Anderson looked at the weather forecast and said, "If we bomb at dawn and the Germans have 3 hours to recover, we're sending men into alert, ready defenses." His proposal: bomb the beaches immediately before the landing craft hit. We're talking 5 minutes before. Paralyze the Germans. Don't give them time to recover. Eisenhower's staff said this violated the cardinal rule. Never bomb where your own troops are about to be. The margin for error was too small. If the bombers dropped their payload 10 seconds early, they'd kill American soldiers. Anderson fought for this plan for weeks. He was overruled. The official plan: bomb at 5:30 a.m. Troops land at 6:30 a.m. But here's what Anderson did. He quietly briefed his B-26 Marauder squadrons. He told them, official time is 5:30. But if weather delays the landing craft, you'll get a signal. Be ready to hit the beaches at H-hour -5 minutes. On the morning of June 6th, the sea was rough. Landing craft were delayed. Anderson gave the signal. The Marauders bombed Omaha and Utah beaches at 6:25 a.m. Troops hit the sand at 6:30 a.m. Some bombs fell so close that soldiers in the landing craft felt the shockwaves. But here's the result. German defenders were stunned, disoriented, still scrambling when the first wave landed. At Utah Beach, where the Marauders dropped 4,000 bombs 5 minutes before H-hour, casualties were incredibly low: 197 men in the first wave. That's 90% lower than expected. At Omaha Beach, where some sectors didn't get the last-minute bombing, over 2,000 casualties in the first hour. After D-Day, an investigation was launched. Anderson was nearly court-martialed for disobeying orders. But General Eisenhower stepped in. He said, "The man saved thousands of lives." Case closed. This tactic, immediate pre-assault bombing, became standard for every major operation in Europe. But on D-Day morning, it wasn't supposed to happen. All right, here's where it gets absolutely wild. The top two tactics were so against the rules that officers were told, if this goes wrong, you'll be court-martialed. Number 2 first. Tactic 2. Bangalore torpedoes used as offensive weapons. Using Bangalore torpedoes not to clear obstacles, but to attack bunkers directly. Totally unauthorized. Completely brilliant. Bangalore torpedoes were designed for one thing: blowing up barbed wire. You shove a metal tube full of explosives under the wire, detonate it, and clear a path. That's it. That's what they're for. But during training in England, a sergeant named John Robertshaw watched men getting shredded by German machine gun bunkers in practice drills, and he had an idea. What if we use Bangalores to blow the bunkers? His plan: crawl up to a bunker, shove the Bangalore through the firing slit, detonate it. The explosion would kill everyone inside or collapse the bunker. His commanding officer said, "That's not what they're designed for. You'll kill yourself." Absolutely not. Robertshaw trained his squad anyway. Secretly, they practiced the technique dozens of times. On D-Day, Omaha Beach, Robertshaw's unit was pinned down. Machine gun fire from 3 bunkers. Men dying in the sand. Robertshaw grabbed a Bangalore torpedo, crawled 40 yards under fire, shoved it through the firing slit of a bunker, and detonated it. The bunker exploded. Everyone inside was killed instantly. His squad did it 2 more times. 3 bunkers, gone. Other soldiers saw it. They started doing it. Within an hour, Bangalore torpedoes were being used as offensive weapons all across Omaha Beach. Here's the crazy part. This violated at least 3 regulations. Bangalore torpedoes weren't rated for offensive use. The blast could kill the operator. It wasn't in any manual. After the battle, Robertshaw was reprimanded for misuse of equipment. But here's what else happened. His technique cleared a path off the beach. Engineers estimated his actions saved 200 men in his sector alone. By the end of June 1944, using Bangalores to attack bunkers was officially added to the Combat Engineer Manual. But on D-Day, Robertshaw was breaking the rules and saving lives. Now, number 1 is the most shocking of all, because Eisenhower almost stopped the invasion when he found out. Tactic 1. Paratroopers jumping in scattered formation on purpose, deliberately scattering paratroopers across Normandy instead of dropping them in tight formations. When Eisenhower found out, he nearly called it off. Let me explain why this is so insane. Airborne doctrine was clear. Drop paratroopers in concentrated zones. You want your units together so they can form up quickly and execute the mission as a cohesive force. Scattered drops equals chaos. Soldiers lost, disorganized, easy to pick off. But in early 1944, Lieutenant Colonel Edward Krauss of the 82nd Airborne looked at the German defenses in Normandy and realized something terrifying. If we drop in tight formations, the Germans will know exactly where we are. They'll concentrate their forces and wipe us out. His idea: scatter the drop on purpose. Spread 13,000 paratroopers across 100 square miles. Create chaos everywhere. The Germans won't know where to respond. When this proposal reached Eisenhower's desk, he wrote in the margin, "This is madness." General Maxwell Taylor, commander of the 101st Airborne, agreed with Krauss. He argued, "A scattered drop confuses the enemy more than it confuses us. Our men are trained to operate independently." Germans aren't. Eisenhower said no. Absolutely not. Paratroopers drop in designated zones, that's final. But here's what happened. On the night of June 5th, transport planes carrying the 82nd and 101st Airborne ran into heavy cloud cover and German anti-aircraft fire. Pilots took evasive action. They scattered. Paratroopers jumped everywhere, miles from their drop zones. It was an accident, except it wasn't entirely an accident. Some pilots had been quietly briefed by their commanders to spread out if conditions require it. In other words, make it look like an accident, but scatter the drop. Eisenhower found out around 2 a.m. on June 6th. He was furious. He almost issued an order to recall the airborne operations, but it was too late. 13,000 men were already on the ground. Here's what that accidental scattered drop accomplished. German commanders received reports of paratroopers in over 50 different locations. They had no idea where the main attack was. They split their forces. They sent reserve units in opposite directions. One German commander reported, "Paratroopers are everywhere. We are surrounded." They weren't surrounded. They were confused. Meanwhile, small groups of American paratroopers, sometimes just 5 or 6 men, were blowing up bridges, cutting communication lines, ambushing patrols. The Germans couldn't respond to everything. By dawn, the German defense of Normandy was paralyzed, not because of overwhelming force, but because of overwhelming confusion. After D-Day, Eisenhower was briefed on the results. Analysts concluded that the scattered drop caused more disruption than a concentrated drop would have. Eisenhower never publicly admitted the drop was intentional, but he never court-martialed anyone either. And here's the final piece. In 1945, during the Rhine River crossing, Allied paratroopers used a scattered drop again. This time, officially. It worked just as well. But on D-Day, it was the tactic that almost got cancelled, and it ended up winning the battle. One German officer captured after D-Day said, "We were ready for an invasion. We were not ready for chaos." 5 tactics. 5 times, someone in command said, "Absolutely not." And 5 times, soldiers on the ground said, "We're doing it anyway." Some were reprimanded. Some were investigated. But all of them saved lives. D-Day didn't succeed because everyone followed the plan. It succeeded because a few people were willing to break the rules when the rules didn't make sense. Let me know in the comments, which tactic surprised you the most? For me, it's number 1. The idea that scattering paratroopers on purpose could work. That's genius-level thinking. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories about the tactics and decisions that actually won the war, not the sanitized version, hit subscribe.